thank you for coming on Idea Generation. I really appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. This is really cool.
No, this is incredible space you got here. It's unbelievable. So
Thank
you are practicing in here multiple times a week?
Yeah, I mean, at least 3-4 days a week I'm here, depending on how my body feels, maybe more. Just kind of go off how my body feels, but yeah, I'm here as much as physically possible.
So this is a question I ask everyone at the outset of the interview. I'm sure you actually more than many get asked this, but how did your parents' professional life inform your ambitions?
Ooh. Well, you know, growing up the son of a comedian, a well-known comedian, and I got to see someone as I grew up living out their dream. And that affected me in a big way because coming up, I thought that was normal. I thought like living your dream was just what you're supposed to do. Like I didn't think that it was like a rare thing or like a 1,000,000-to-1 shot type of situation. It just seemed normal. Like I would go to movie sets, I would meet these famous stars, I would watch my dad perform in huge theaters in front of big crowds, and yeah, so it just, from day one, I was already dreaming like big, like what I wanted to do, and I would have my dreams. I was a big dreamer since as far as I can remember. So that affected me a lot, and I think that's a huge reason why I'm able to live my dream right now, because I didn't realize till much later, when it was already embedded into me, that not everybody lives their dream. So that's a major factor.
So I know you started skating around your 12th birthday. What was it like, what was the feeling that you got that drew you so sort of instantly to it?
Something about skating to me felt, now older I can articulate, but it wasn't quite a sport and it wasn't fully an art. It was a nice blend, you know, of like athleticism and creativity, and that combination just felt really good to me. I was always athletic as a kid. I played Little League baseball, did karate, did every team that I could do at school. I played, you know, basketball, flag football, everything. I just was always energetic and athletic, but I had to rely on other kids to play those games. And I was a single kid in the house growing up. So when I found skateboarding, I quickly realized like I could do it all by myself, didn't have to wait for anyone, didn't need like other kids to play a full game or do whatever. I could just skate as much as I wanted by myself, or I could skate with friends too, like, but I didn't need to wait on anyone, which was a big perk for me. So I just liked the movement of it. I don't know, it felt martial arts-esque, you know, and it just, I don't know, it just felt right.
How long did it take before you realized that you had an unusual or extraordinary gift?
It didn't happen right away in the sense of when other people started telling me that like I was good, but luckily I was always dreaming big, like I was saying before. I just always dreamt about whatever it was. When I played baseball, I wanted to be the best pitcher. Nolan Ryan was my favorite. Or when I was doing karate, I wanted to do martial arts movies like Van Damme and Bruce Lee. I always just pictured myself trying to be like whoever was the biggest in whatever I was doing. So naturally, in skateboarding was the same way. So I just envisioned myself trying to be one of the top guys, and I just went after it. So I didn't necessarily know if I had talent or not, and that wasn't even important to me. It was just like somehow I was like, I'm going to be that. And I'm thankful that I had that kind of naive confidence.
What was the process to go from being a 12-year-old that has like just gotten on their first skateboard to getting, you know, your first pro looks?
Yeah, it was just immediately when I first started skating, it was like immediately I fell in love, and I just skated every waking moment, every free moment. Anytime I wasn't in school, I was skating. Anytime I wasn't asleep, I was skating. It was just non-stop obsession. And then after maybe 2 years of that, maybe a year and a half, I found out about sponsorships and that there was pro skaters. At first, I hadn't seen magazines or videos yet, didn't know it was like a thing you can do that was like
Really?
professional. I just saw kids at school doing it, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, because like I couldn't understand how they can make the board stick with their feet, or how they can flip it and land back on it. And it was like, you know, when you see a magician do a magic trick and you're like, I need to know how that's done, I have to know. So that's how it first started. So I would just watch local kids and like try to catch up to where they were at. And then a friend of mine who I became close with through skating had an older cousin who used to skate, you know, maybe 10 years before us, and he would show us old skate videos, and I was like, what? There's professionals, and they'll see magazines, what? You can do this for a job? I was like, I have to do this. This has to be my job. I can't not do this. So once I started seeing videos and magazines, then I really started progressing a little more, and I learned about sponsorship, so I went to the local skate shop. They had little tryouts to get on their local skate team, and I would go to the tryouts and practice and try to get on their team. And they had an A, B, and C team. I made the C team one, like you know, my first tryout that I went to, and that was all I needed. That little bit of encouragement, the C team, which didn't really give me any benefit, you know, just to say that you're associated with that skate shop. But that's all I needed. Like, Mom, I got my first sponsor. I'm on the C team, and at Valley Skate and Surf, and that right there just accelerated me. That gave me enough to just be like, I can do this. So then maybe a year after that, my friend Kevin, who went to the same school as me, we had my uncle Dave let me borrow his camcorder, and we'd been filming each other and making like a little video of our tricks. And without me knowing, my friend Kevin took our video to this other skate shop, 118 skate shop, where like as far as we were concerned, like the pro level skaters skated with them. And he took it there one day, and he calls me, he says, hey, I took our video over to 118. I think they want to sponsor us. They want to meet you, and they want us to come skate with them this weekend. I was like, are you serious? So we went and skated with them. They were like 4 or 5 years older than us, these guys. And it's the first time I ever had a friend who had a car, drove us to an actual spot, had a camera, filmed us. And at the end of the day, it was like, so do you guys want to be sponsored by 118 Skate Shop? And we're like, yeah. So my friend...
What all is entailed being sponsored?
At 118 Skate Shop, it was a 25% discount. So to me, that was pretty good. Like, you know, 25% off boards and shoes and all that. So that was cool, and to be in their video. You know, locally, their video to us was like a huge deal. So that was my first like real sponsor, but through them, they were connected with actual skate brands. They had the sales reps coming in, and they had connections to guys there. So I ended up giving my next sponsor me tape, which was probably like 6 months later of my latest footage, to this guy at DVS Footwear. And they put me on the flow team, where they give you like 2 or 3 pairs of shoes a month. And I was like, oh, this is it. We're going places. And then a friend of mine there, Steve, ended up getting sponsored by this board company called Status Skateboards. And they were located in San Diego. So I had my next new sponsor me tape. I was filming like a madman back then. I was progressing so fast. I gave him my tape, like, hey, next time you go down to San Diego, can you maybe give them my tape? And he goes down to San Diego, and Status Skateboards also had a sister company called DNA Skateboards. And he was in San Diego, and he called me, and he says, hey, I gave them your tape. They want to put you on DNA Skateboards. I was like, really? I can get to be flowed? He's like, no, they want to put you amateur on their actual team. What? I was tripping. So the next weekend, he takes me down to San Diego. I meet the guys there. They give me my first free skateboards. They give me like 5 boards and all the t-shirts I want, stickers, and I'm just like, oh my God. I take the box home, and I sleep with all the stuff in my bed. I like snuggled up my free skateboards and all that. And from there, they gave me my first ad in the magazine, gave me my first video part in a video that actually was in skate shops. And I started getting attention through my ad and my little video part from other people in the industry. And little by little, I worked my way up the level of sponsor.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No worries.
I'm curious, like, you know, as you're making these different video parts, like, what was your strategy, or like, how were you thinking about each one?
It's funny how then I feel like I was way smarter then than I am now, like without even realizing it. Like I was so tuned in, I was so locked in that it was almost second nature. It was like almost like I was locked into an algorithm where it was just innate. I didn't have a specific like pre-plan. It just, I knew what to do. Like I would watch all my favorite skaters, I would study how they would skate, I would learn everything about them, and I would try to learn and emulate their tricks. And every time I would learn a new trick, I would just try to go film it at a spot, make sure I have that in my video part, and it would just, after a certain amount of footage, maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, it would just feel done. And I would just be like, okay, here it is, and submit it either for a sponsor me tape or for my early video parts. It was the same way because it was just, the filming never stopped. It was just like, oh, deadline's here? Okay, here, take this, because I'm still going. Oh, here, just take this, and I'm still going. Like, it was just nonstop. And my approach was just to learn new tricks and be really consistent at them and try to make them look good. Like that was really what was embedded into my head by the older guys, especially by my friend Nigel. He was like, look, man, anybody can do tricks, anybody can do hard tricks, but if they don't look good, it means nothing. From the way you're dressing and from the way your body actually, like the form of the trick. You know, one guy might do the same trick, but it looks like it's so hard, like he's struggling, and another guy might do it and it looks like he's just smooth, like just finesse and flowing. He's like, you wanna aim for that, because that's true mastery. Even if you do a less hard trick, and this guy's doing a super hard trick, but you make the less hard trick look better, that means more, because that means that you've got good enough at this trick to where you've mastered it, and you do it with grace and finesse. This guy, he might have done that hard trick and took him a million tries and he finally pulled it off, but like you could tell he skipped steps and he's rushing the progress. That's why it's not looking so good. It's not looking as polished. So that always stuck with me. So I always just try to make sure I made things look, just try to make my style and everything be fluid and smooth and polished, that was huge advice from Nigel, because that took me a long way.
Who were the skaters that you were looking at that were inspiring you in that?
My early favorite skater, well, my first favorite skater ever was this guy named Kin Lu. His name, they called him Donger. And it was before I knew what tricks were. All I knew was like, this guy can ollie really high. I didn't know anything about switch or fakie or flip tricks or whatever. I just know that, wow, that guy can jump high. So he was my first favorite skater. But once I really learned about tricks and things, it was Tom Penny, Eric Costin, Andrew Reynolds, Daewon Song, Mark Johnson, Ronnie Krieger, Enrique Lorenzo, Kareem Campbell. I mean, the list goes on, but I just studied basically all the girl chocolate and world industry guys were the guys I really gravitated towards.
And so, you talked a little bit about sort of your approach, but, you know, in your head, what were you thinking, like, you want your style to be like?
At one point, I just wanted to be Tom Penny. You know, when I was really young, I just was like, Tom Penny he dressed the coolest. He looked like he was asleep while he was skating. He looked like he never messed up. And he was just the most legendary. The way everyone would talk about him as if he didn't even really exist. He was a myth. He was like Santa Claus. Like, you would hear a story about him. Oh, the legend is Tom went to this spot, didn't even look at it. Did the trick down the stairs first try, didn't even look at the stairs. He just did it. And the legend, he did this, he did that. And you would just hear these stories like, man, I want to be a legend like Tom. Like, I would want to be talked about like that. That'd be cool. But then also Eric Costin. Eric's the best. That's everyone just, when you think of the best, it's just Costin. And Eric was just constantly progressing on handrails, nollie, switch, and fakie stuff. He was constantly progressing. He was the most precise skater. So like, I just wanted to be like a blend of them two. And then of course, Andrew Reynolds, he started blowing up during that time, and he was jumping downstairs, biggest stairs, and I was like, I need a piece of Andrew Reynolds too in my recipe. So once I got older, I realized, like, instead of wanting to be another one of these guys, being a copy of this guy, which you can never be as good or better a copy of someone, I realized, like, well, I'm just gonna take a piece of all of my favorites and try to put him into me and create my own recipe so that I can be the original me, influenced by these guys, you know?
When did you feel like you found that voice?
Probably about 17, 18, when I got a little taller. I mean, relatively taller. I mean, I'm not tall now, but I'm saying when I got a little taller from when I was 15, and a little more strength in my legs, and I didn't look like a little kid skater anymore. I actually, like, people weren't saying I was good for a little kid anymore. They were just like, oh, he's good. So I would say that happened around 17, 18, when I finally felt like, all right, I'm my own person now.
Were your parents on board for this?
Yeah, my mom, I grew up living with my mom, and she was, like I was saying earlier, just real supportive and letting me do and explore hobbies and things. And my mom was all good with me skating, but my parents just didn't understand that you could do it for a living. I barely understood I didn't even know what making a living was, like what that entailed. But my dad, when I told him I wanted to be a pro skater, he was like, son, you can't have a career doing that. Look, it's fun, you're having fun, enjoy yourself, but like, you know, at some point when you get older, you're gonna have to find out what you wanna do. Get a job or do something. I was like, Dad, this is what I'm doing. Like, there's people making a living off this. I mean, yeah, but you gotta be really good, and do they even make any money? I'm like, and I had to flip it. I'm like, Dad, you're a guy who was born in Mexico, immigrated to this country as a little kid, and became a stand-up comedian who took care of his whole family. What did your parents say when you said you're gonna tell jokes for a living to pay for the bills? And like, I remember it clear as day. He was actually the first time I ever seen him speechless, because he's always got a witty comeback for everything. He had nothing to say. And he just said, you're right, I guess I can't really say anything about that. I was like, all right, so this is what I'm gonna do, you know? And I was dead ass serious, and it's crazy, the youthful naivety, looking back on it, it's funny.
So how old were you when you felt like you were really fully a professional? Like, I'm making a grown-up person's wage and managing my own money and all that kind of stuff?
When I was 17, I got turned pro, and I was in the process of having a signature shoe. Actually, no, that was when I was 18, but once I had got a professional, my name on a board for Girls Skateboards, which was the most prestigious company at the time. If you're on Girl and you're pro, that means you're somebody. And that's when I felt like, wow, like I'm on the team with Costin, my hero. I'm on the team with this guy, you know, like, oh my God, I'm traveling the world. And then I got on S Footwear, which also Costin was on. And at one point, I had all the same sponsors that Costin had. And like, I was like, my hero, my childhood hero, posters on the wall, watch his videos over and over again. I'm literally on every sponsor with this guy, and I get to hang out and skate with him all the time. That's when I felt like, wow, I'm in the game. I made it. I'm a pro. But then once I had the signature shoe, 18, I started working on my signature shoe for that other brand, and then Nike came knocking, and I had to take that opportunity, and then it was just like, wow.
Tell me about that, because obviously Nike and Nike SB and your role in their ascent is incredibly important. You know, they tried to get in the skate space in the 90s and failed somewhat, you know, notoriously. And then in the early aughts, they sort of, you know, I don't know, reinvested in the culture and tried to really figure it out. And you became the face of that entire movement. You know, what were those initial conversations like, and how did you know that they were going to get it right this time?
It's funny because I didn't know. I didn't know anything, but somehow I knew. It's weird. Like, if I had to go back and try to plan it all out, there's no way it would work. But when Nike first came and approached me to be part of the program, I mean, they took me down to the campus. I was there in Beaverton. They gave me a whole tour of the place, and you know, you've been there, and when you go on the tour of the campus, you're just like jaw dropped, like oh my gosh, this is crazy. It's the Michael Jordan building, the Tiger Woods building, the Serena building. You're just like, what is going on? And then they brought me to Sandy's office. Sandy had the coolest office with the craziest artwork and toys everywhere, and his desk, cool instruments everywhere, and he had his hair bleached blonde and just a wild dresser, and just sitting there and telling me, like how much they wanted me to be a part of Nike. And I'm like, this Nike? Like, you want me? Like, this kid from the valley, this little Mexican kid from the valley, you want me here? Wow. I mean, I couldn't say no to that. And I almost did, though, which is crazy. They wowed me. And I was like, I was flying back on the plane with my manager. Oh, here's a side note, funny story. So I used to be terrified of flying. And just for the 2-hour flight to Portland, my strategy was I'm gonna stay up all night, so when I get on the plane, I'll be so tired I'll fall asleep, so I won't have to be scared. We get to Portland, of course it doesn't work. I stay up all night, I get on the plane, I can't fall asleep because I'm scared. We go to the campus, do the whole tour. We're in Sandy's office. I forget however long into it, he's talking to me and I'm doing this. I'm falling asleep on Sandy Bodecker, and my manager is like hitting me, and I'm like, oh shit, oh, I'm so sorry, and I had to explain to him, I'm sorry, I'm scared of flying, I don't mean to be disrespectful, I felt so bad. But I got sidetracked there, sorry.
No, you were saying how you for a moment, you considered not taking the deal.
Yes. So on the flight home, talking with my manager, I was like, this is so awesome, I gotta do this, I would love to do this. And so she starts negotiating and everything, and she comes back to me and she's like, okay, here's what they're offering, 5 years, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, what about a shoe, a signature shoe? She's like, let me talk to them. So she calls me back a couple days later. Hey, they said they're not doing shoes. They're not planning on doing any signature shoes for skateboarding. I was like, oh, well then I can't do it. Because I was already skating samples of shoes with my name on it with my other sponsor. And to me, you're not an official pro skater unless you have your signature board and your signature shoes. And so I was, 19, naive, but clear on my dream. And I was like, all right, well, I tell him I can't do it. I need a signature shoe. I'm already skating one. So she went back and told him, and however long later, a week or so later, she came back and said, okay, they said they'll give you a shoe. And I said, let's do it. Right then and there, let's go. And that was it, the rest is history.
What was the perception from your peers and from the rest of the industry? I know that there's, they obviously look at, it's a very insular scene, and Nike is looked at as sort of like the Goliath.
Yeah, at that time, there was definitely a lot of heat, a lot of people, whispering and saying things. Luckily, there wasn't like Instagram or social media then, because then I would be hearing a lot more comments and things like that. But at that, people had certain things to say. You throwing out the sellout, label there for a little bit or whatever, but it just didn't bother me. I was like, dude, I've been wearing Nike. My first pair of shoes as a baby was Nikes. You know what I mean? Like, I've been wearing Nike since a little kid. What kid didn't grow up in our era that didn't want Nikes or Jordans or, to me, selling out is doing something that's against your morals or against who you are. That's not you. I mean, Nike's been part of my life since day one. Doesn't feel wrong to me, I would have been an idiot to turn that down and let that criticism turn me away from that. So yeah, there was some mumbling, but that died quickly. After a year or two, and then all of a sudden everybody wanted to get on Nike, and Nike was the most sought after sponsor for skaters. That's the number one thing they wanted to be a part of, so that died out real quickly. I just kept my head down, kept skating, kept doing my thing.
How did your career change after that alignment?
Oh man, it changed a lot. I went from being like well known just in skate world to all of a sudden I'm starting to be known outside of the skate world, which was a trip to me. I remember one of the first times I got recognized, I was in a McDonald's drive-thru, and this guy didn't skate, knew who I was. I was like, well, I couldn't understand how he knew who I was, you know. But it was, you know, the Nike commercials and Nike ads that they were doing there. They were doing TV commercials at that time, you know, and that just took me to a whole nother level. You know, they had me doing events with Kobe and Serena, and I'm sitting here with these like icons, and I'm just sitting in between them like, what am I doing here? Like, this is crazy. So it took me to a whole nother level. It made me, like, I guess, attractive to other sponsors like that were not core sponsors. I ended up getting drink sponsors and cell phone sponsors and all kinds of different sponsors. And I think, you know, that the way Nike elevated me helped out a lot with that.
What was that like, you know, interacting with the Serena Williams and the Kobes and the LeBrons of the world, and how did your conversations with them change how you thought about yourself and your own sort of career?
You know, I don't know how it changed how I thought about myself. It was just like a big fantasy, a big dream. Like, I would just always was like, what the hell is going on? How is this happening right now? Like, my dream of being a pro skater, like this, I didn't even know this was part of the dream. This was beyond what I thought could be part of the dream. So like, I remember the first time I met Kobe, they did this thing where they bust in kids from LA, all different schools in LA, to one location, and they brought the Los Angeles Nike athletes there to come hang with the kids, talk to the kids, and just kind of like do like a cool meet and greet. And it was Kobe, Serena, and Michael Johnson, right, the fastest man in the world at one time, and then myself. And I remember when I got there, they had this little green room for me, and I'm just sitting in there chilling, and somebody comes in, and they were like, hey, Kobe would like to meet you. You want to go say hi? I'm like, yeah. So I went in there. He was in his green room. You know, they were touching him up, doing a little makeup and whatnot, and he was sitting in the chair, and he was still taller than me sitting in the chair, you know, and he's just like, hey man, what's up? How you doing? I'm like, hi, how you doing? I'm like freezing up, like, hi, how are you? He's like, man, I just want to say hi, man. I respect what you do. He's like, I tried to skateboard when I was about 16. I bust my ass. I never skated again. Like, it's like, man, what you guys do is crazy. Like, I'm just like, thanks. Like, oh my God, I was speechless and frozen. Could not get a word out. And I just asked him for a picture. Can I have a picture? Yeah. And took a picture with him, and then like, okay, I gotta go. Like, I had to rush myself out of there because it was too like overwhelming. I couldn't handle the feeling. And then Serena, she was sweet, so cool, nice. Really, she has a really like calming energy about her, really relaxing energy. So I was like a little more mellow around her. Okay, cool. That's just what I remember from being around them. And
was there a point where you ever felt like you belonged next to those people?
No, never been a point. Still, I still look at them like here, you know. But to me, that's fun to me. I love being starstruck. It's inspiring to me. I don't ever want to be like. I get it. Some people are like, oh, they're just, you know, there's normal people just like you and me. Like, no, they're not. Yes, they have arms and legs like you and me, but what's different is here. They're different here. That's what I don't think a lot of people get. That's why I put my heroes up on a pedestal, not in some weird fantasy way, but like the reason they're there is because they're different here, and they're different here, you know? They're cut from a different cloth. They got a different mindset, different heart, and that's, to me, so inspiring, and that's what I always try to remind myself, and to strive to be great, like my heroes, because sure, we all put our pants on one leg at a time, whatever the saying is, sure, like, oh, they're just, you know, normal people like you and me. Yeah, sure, they breathe oxygen, they eat food, they go to sleep, yeah, same shit, but they're not like you and me, you know what I mean? They're different.
True. I think some people would say that you are cut from a different cloth though as well, and like clearly there are things that separate you from all of your competitive peers who you were coming up with, right? And I'm curious, what do you think that is?
Man, that's a hard one because that's not for me to say, I guess. I don't know. I can't feel what another person feels inside of them, but all I know is I could tell you, especially, you know, when I first started skateboarding, I mean, even still till now, of course, but like the passion, the love and the fire that I have inside, it's intense, man. It's a lot. And I can't gauge what level another person's fire is going on in them, but I can only tell you mine's it's burning strong, you know, and I can't help it. It's an addiction. I have to skate. I'm compelled to skate, you know, like I'm depressed if I can't skate. It's like, it can be unhealthy how in love with skating I can be and have been. I would imagine it's probably similar for a Kobe or a Jordan, whoever is the greatest in whatever category, because, you know, you become very unbalanced. Like, you know, like there's a lot of family relationships I never cultivated on because I was too locked in, or certain things that I never experienced that maybe my friends who weren't living that kind of way experienced. But it's just, I just love this shit, man. I love it. I can't stop. And as long as God will allow me to do it, I'm gonna do it and try to be the best I can be. I don't know.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Jordan and Kobe, who, in addition, I think, to being obviously, you know, some of the most incredible athletes in the history of athleticism, are also known for being some of the most competitive people to walk the planet.
Sure.
Does competition drive you?
No, competition doesn't drive me. That's what's different in skateboarding is, that's why I consider it like an art. It has athleticism. It's not quite a sport, but you have to be athletic to be able to do it. But it's not built off competition. I compare skateboarding more so to music, where like you can collaborate with people. You can like, just because this guy's an amazing skater doesn't make me any less of an amazing skater, or vice versa. Because there is no right or wrong. He might skate totally different, do completely different tricks, skate way different obstacles than I skate, and I might skate completely different than him. Like, there is no rules to skateboarding, there's no right or wrong. Sure, when I go to contests, I want to win, of course. I want to skate, I want to show my best skating, and I'd love to be on a podium holding a trophy, for sure. But it's not like, I'm coming for you, I'm coming for you. It's more like I just want to showcase my best art. Like, you know, I'm sure when Bob Marley was making music, I can't say for sure, but I'm guessing, he was just making music that came from his heart and that just felt the best for him to make, and he felt like he was being his best version. I don't think he was looking at whoever from his era, you know, Jimi Hendrix or whatever, like, oh, no, I gotta take him out, I gotta outdo him or take his sales away. You know, that's not, skateboarding wasn't built in competition. Basketball, football, baseball, that's like, the game is competition. But the only competition is just yourself and improving yourself and getting over your fears and your mental hurdles and whatever the hell else gets in the way, but you're your only competition.
Is it hard to perform in something, in a sort of discipline where success is so subjective?
No. It's just, you could paint whatever picture you want to paint. You know, whatever success is to you is what you go for. You know, some guys, they have no ambition for attention or sponsorships or money or whatever. They just want to skate for the sake of skating, and they love it, and they're phenomenal, more so than the general public will ever know. Like, but then, like me, like, I'm unique in the sense of like I had my father. I saw success early. I saw financial success early, like as far as him being successful and living his dream and having attention and being in the spotlight. And to me, that was attractive. You know, like I was like, that would feel good, you know, like that would feel cool to be like recognized, like, you know, in my field like that. But at the same time, with or without that having happened, I can't not skateboard. I have to skateboard, you know what I mean? Like, before this interview was here, before anybody got here, I was here skating. I skated this morning already for an hour before anybody got here, just because I wanted to. I just had to do it. It's just in me. So I feel like I have a little bit of both of that. So that's just the picture that I want to paint for myself. Sure, I want the accolades. Sure, I want the big sponsors and the Nikes and the shoes and my picture in the magazines or whatever. That feels good, you know, but don't get it twisted, man. I love what I do. That's not the driving force. I love this, you know.
Have you ever gone through a period where you felt burnt out?
Yeah, definitely. About 2016, I decided to not skate competitions. At that time, I thought I was done with skating contests altogether. And
Just because of physical issues, or?
No, I just didn't feel the drive for it. I didn't feel it, like, why show up to a contest if you don't feel like even putting your best foot forward, you know? I just decided, like, I want to get back in touch with street skating and just go skate for myself. At that time, 2016, see, I was 32, something like that. And I had already been skating contests for like 13 years straight, nonstop, every summer. I skated every contest, X Games, do tour, street league, everything, plus putting out video parts, plus touring the world, plus doing demos and everything for all my sponsors, all my obligations, doing everything nonstop for 13 years. And I was just, I didn't realize at the time that I was burnt out, but I just realized I don't want to street skate. I felt like I'm already in my 30s, I'm getting over the hill, like I'm just gonna skate for fun and not worry about it. I don't think I'm gonna put any more video parts out at all. And I just was skating with no real aim. I was kind of just on autopilot. And it took me until 2018 when I blew out my knee to realize that I had been burnt out. That's like, I was confused during that time, like, what happened? Where did it go? Like, where's the fire? What happened? Like, it just vaporized overnight or something. And then when I hurt my knee, I had a lot of downtime, a lot of time to reflect, a lot of time to realize, you know, that I'd been taking a lot of things for granted, kind of got entitled without even realizing it. It kind of became normal to me, like normalized, like this life that I was living. Like, yeah, another box of Nike shows up. Yeah, whatever, this and that. Like the shit that like the 15-year-old version of me would be going nuts about. I started realizing, man, dude, you really fell off track, man. You really think this is owed to you now. Like, I really realized, like, I was not in a good place. But it took me to that downtime and to get skateboarding physically taken away from me and not knowing if I was gonna get it back to appreciate that. So that's when I decided to dedicate myself to my recovery. No way I'm going out like this. I'm not retiring because of this injury. I'm not gonna just like accept that my best years are behind me. This is my new challenge. This is my new obstacle. Rehab myself, get back in the game and see if I can come back. Not even just come back to where I was, but maybe I can see if I can come back, if I can get better. Like, then all of a sudden I felt the fire starting to grow and grow and grow. I was like, okay, I got something. I got a new challenge. I guess I realized I didn't have anything to chase anymore, you know, and now I have something to chase. Like, now I'm like, no, I want to go out on my own terms. I want to still prove I got what it takes and still be my best and keep pushing. So that's kind of been my new motivation since. And
how are you thinking about this sort of final stage of your, active professional career as a skater, of course?
I'm appreciating it a hell of a lot more. I'm so grateful for it. I'm actually so sentimental. I've become really emotional and mushy lately. Like, I'll watch old videos, see old pictures, I'll feel my my eyes welling up and start like getting teary-eyed and like, oh, dude. But it's like happy. It's happiness. It's just hard for me to fathom that it's already at this point. And so whenever I skate with more gratitude and more intention than I had been for a little while there prior to my injury. And I'm just been focused on getting myself back in touch with the mindset and passion that I had in my early 20s, late teens, that era. And just try and push myself to be my best and contribute. I just want to still be considered relevant and still be considered like, no, Paul can still skate. I don't want to be that dude that like, remember when he used to be this guy, that guy? Oh, that hurts my soul. But I feel like I still have gas in the tank to still be relevant.
Are there ways to sort of, when you think about, I don't know, a lot of like basketball players as they get older, they change their game, right?
Yeah.
Like less driving,
right?
Better, three-point shooting, better jump shots.
Yeah.
Have you adjusted sort of your approach?
I'm starting to, but I definitely am well aware that like I have to adjust how I skate, but can still be good, but be good in a different way. For me, it would have to be just going heavier on the technical side of skateboarding with the ledges and more like technical tricks, flip in, flip out type tricks, and at some point a little bit less of the jumping down the stairs, but thank God that's still there. But I feel like I'm gonna have to just go deeper in my bag of technicality, which takes a lot more patience, a lot more persistence, because you might be trying to trick 5-6 hours one day and won't land one of them, and then you have to come back and try it again another day, and come back and try it again another day until you finally get it, whereas when I was a teenager, I could skate 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and tomorrow I'll feel great and do it all over again and land a million tricks and learn 5 tricks in one day, and so you definitely have to adjust, more so a mental adjustment, just knowing that the process is different, but you can still get that goal accomplished.
So let's go back a little bit in time in your career. You talked about, you signed the deal with Nike, and now you're hobnobbing with the other GOATs of sports, and you're getting all of these sponsorships, cell phones, beverages, all kinds of things. Were there ever any deals that got put in front of you that you just felt like, I can't do this? This isn't skate, this isn't me? Sure,
I've turned down lots of stuff. It's funny you ask, because now I can't even think of stuff that I've turned down. But I've definitely turned down some certain drink brands I just didn't want to be associated with, certain footwear brands I didn't want to skate for, like some like snacks or food brands. I was, it's not, not enough money for me to consider that, at least, but definitely turned down probably a lot more stuff than I've said yes to. Not only because it wasn't something that I'm into, but also just because of time, man. You only have so much bandwidth, especially when it's something that requires your physical ability. Like, I can only do so much for so many sponsors before my body has just ran down and burnt out. Which is why right now I have like a really minimal amount of sponsors. I really only have 2 sponsors, not including Primitive, because that's my business, so I don't even consider it my sponsors, my brand, but I only have 2 sponsors, and I like that because like I could give them more of me, rather than when I used to have 7, 8, 9, whatever sponsor it'd be. You gotta do a photo shoot this day, and then this one needs you in this city for this signing over here, and then you gotta be at this contest, and you gotta do this. And then I was like, well, when do I get to skate? When do I get to go street skating? When do I get to film? When do I get to practice? They want me to show up at these contests and do good, but I haven't been practicing. I've been on this tour, to this signing, to this shoot, to this commercial, to whatever, which is great, all stuff I loved, but I realized my skate career was getting in the way of my skateboarding. So I had to learn how to balance that. And when you're young, you can balance it, but it's just not sustainable. You know?
Yeah, I mean, did you have to sort of have conversations with your management at the time to sort of figure out what is the balance that works?
Yeah, I would just always try to have them like try to help me balance my schedule better and like just give me some buffer time and like, you know, let certain sponsors know like I need to skate, I need to practice, I need to be on point if they want me to, you know, represent them to the fullest. I need to feel like confident in my skills. I don't want to show up to a contest feeling rusty, you know. But I also knew that like that's what I signed up for. That's the challenge I accepted. So after a while, I started, you know, thinning it out a little bit and, you know, getting to a place where I feel like I can handle it and manage it, and I feel really good where I'm at right now. Excuse me. So I forgot where we started with that question, but
What was the catalyst to starting your own brand, Primitive?
yeah, so Primitive started in 2008. I was 23, and my founding partner, he was the guy who actually managed the skate shop I told you about at the beginning, 118 Skate Shop. He was working retail his whole life, managed the shop and everything. And once I signed with Nike, he had already been saying, hey, we need to open up a sneaker store, let's open a sneaker shop. And when I was 19, just signed with Nike, I was like, man, I couldn't be bothered with that. I don't know anything about this. This sounds crazy. I don't know. I can't do that. And he just stayed persistent. He stayed on me like every year, every time I saw him, like, I'm telling you, we can kill it. We do great. I know all about the sneaker world. We'll kill it. We'll have the exclusive stuff. I can see it now. I'm like, man, I'm not ready for that. It seems too, you know, overwhelming for me. But finally, around 22, I was like, definitely well aware of that skateboarding has a window of earning potential, and it's earlier retirement than if I were a doctor or a lawyer. So I was like, all right, I need to figure out how to set myself up for life after skateboarding. So finally around then I was like, all right, let's talk about it. You know, let's see how can we do it. And we started discussing how to open up a store, and I talked to Nike, and they were like, you know, they weren't just like, okay, here you go. They were like, well, dude, like, let's see if you're serious. They're like, bring us a business plan, you know, tell us what your vision is and everything. So we went to a CPA who is now actually our CEO now. He wrote our business plan for us. We brought it to Nike. We had a location where we wanted to go, and they were like, wow, like, this is actually a real business plan. We were impressed. Like, cool. So they granted us the right to sell Nike, and once we got Nike, then we were able to get the other shoe brands, get other clothing brands, and it all kind of come together. And we wanted to open up here in the Valley because we knew like Melrose and Fairfax was already like locked down by those guys over there. I was like, but like Ventura Boulevard, that's our like Melrose and Fairfax of the Valley, so let's have a spot out here, you know? And so we started as a store, and slowly made shirts and sweaters and hats, and people would buy it, and we'd sell out of those, and we would make boards and sell out of those, and then other stores would ask if they can carry our shirts or sweaters and hats, and little by little, a couple other stores had us, and then, you know, we ended up getting a meeting with Zoomies, and they gave us a trial run, and that's where it like really progressed. So that's kind of the footnotes of how and why Primitive started.
How does the relationship with Zoomies work?
It works really well. You know, we've been with them for a long time now. Our sales team is real tight with their people over there, and they help give us guidance. But you know, they're a big retail store. They have certain demands. They you know, give you a packet of how you're supposed to, like, you don't just mail in the box and here it is. Like, they'll tell you how they want it packaged. If it's already got to be barcoded or this and that, and you know, and if you don't do it properly, you know, they get discounts and on the order or whatever. I don't even know if I should be saying this stuff, but you know, it's business, man, and you can't take that stuff personally. They're the big dogs, you know, and they buy in such big bulk and they're spending big money. They expect it to come and show up in a certain way, and so that was a major learning curve. That's why they put us in, I think it was like 50 stores at first, just the test run, and you know, that was a big challenge for us because that was hard to, like, you know, deliver the way they're asking for it to be delivered. But now we got that dialed in, down pat, and that's not even an issue. And they show us a lot of love and support us, and we try to make sure we're always there to support them too. But also the hard part is balancing, love from also the core skate shops, because I don't want to alienate the industry that grew me, So we still make sure that we try to deliver to the core skate shops and keep good relationships there and support them. It's a tough balance, business. You try, you can't please everybody, but trying to survive out here,
So when did Primitive start having its own skate team and really becoming this sort of 360 brand?
Yeah, 2014 we launched Primitive Skateboards. I was with another brand called Plan B. I was with them for 8 years, had a phenomenal time on that team, some of the best memories of my life. But I realized at that time I was maybe 28, and I realized, again, skateboarding has a window, man. You need to do something to sustain yourself after your financial earning potential in skateboarding isn't as grand as it is. So I was lucky to also realize, grateful that I was one of the names in skateboarding that was able to be marketable and moved product well from my other brands. So I was like, I think if I start my own board brand, it will have a chance at doing well. So my partner, Heath Brinkley, he's the guy who always entrusted his vision for skateboarding. He loves skateboarding to death with a passion. And I went to him, I was like, let's start a board brand. And I was gonna just start a separate board brand. And my partner, Andy, who I started Primitive with, got word of it, and he was like, why would you start another brand? You have this brand here, you have Primitive. Why wouldn't you just bring it to Primitive and make Primitive Skateboards? And I was like, you're right, I don't know why. I don't know why I wouldn't, but I guess I should. And so that's kind of how that started. And thank God it's going well, and we've been able to establish ourselves now going on 8 years as one of the top skateboard brands in our industry. So I just grateful. I feel like sometimes I just fall ass backwards into this stuff. I don't even know how it's done. Like if you ask me these questions, I don't even know how to properly answer. I go into these long-winded answers because the truth is I don't exactly know. I don't exactly know how to explain I just by the grace of God, man. That's all I can say. Yeah.
What is it like to have been, like a teenage phenom and now be a man in your mid-30s signing teenage phenoms to your team?
That's a really fulfilling feeling because it's like full circle. I remember being that kid. I know what this means to sign someone, especially now where Primitive is. When somebody is on the team, it lets the rest of the industry know, no, this person's for real, this person's somebody to look at. And the fact that we've been able to kind of create that reputation of, one, I'm very grateful for, and two, it's wonderful to be a part of helping someone's dream come to a reality.
What do you look for? I imagine as anyone building a brand, you have an idea of what Primitive is supposed to stand for.
Sure.
So what do you look for when you're picking, people to be on the team?
I look for a feeling, man. I look for a feeling that I get when I watch someone skate, when I see them skate. I would imagine it's similar to, somebody finding a musician, a musical artist that they feel like they is a superstar and needs to get them, like an A&R finds somebody and wants to get them signed. I don't have just a list of things. It's got to be a feeling, a charisma, a style, a way they do the tricks. Sometimes it's just the way a person pushes. Sometimes, it's something that I can't even explain. I'm like, no, this person is Primitive, Again, it's another thing I can't explain. a feeling. You just gotta go with your gut, man.
So what role would you say that you play in the business?
I play the role of stay out of the way. That's the smartest thing I can do. I have really great partners, a really good board of directors, Heath Brinkley, Mitch Bhatia, John Bhatia, Jubal Jones, and myself. But these guys are in the grind day to day, running the brand, making sure everything's running smooth, managing people, hiring and firing people, and just making sure the brand grows creative-wise and financial-wise. Me, I just try to do what I always done. I try to be the best skateboarder I can be, and I try to, just be, I guess the face of the brand and try to make sure the brand's seen and elevated. And I've learned that you got to know what you're good at, and equally as important, you got to know what you're not good at. If I was in there trying to call shots and this, Primitive would have never even made it this far. We would have never got off the ground if I was trying to act like I can run a company. I've seen a lot of people think, oh, because I'm good at this, that means I'll automatically be good at this. And it doesn't just work it doesn't just translate like that. Just because you're good in one area doesn't mean you're going to necessarily just come over here and be great over there. It's not impossible. People can do it, but it's not just it doesn't just snap and happen,
As you've sort of progressed in your career, you have diversified your revenue streams and created a number of different businesses on the side. One of them that was a sort of fairly big success was the beer brand, St. Archer. How did you get involved in that?
So St. Archer was funny. My very close friend, former pro skater Mikey Taylor, he went on a surf trip with this guy, Josh Landon. They were into surfing. This was probably about 2010, maybe 2011, somewhere in that area. And they went on a surf trip together. He was real big into surfing at the time. I think they went to Costa Rica or something. And they had met through some mutual friends, I think, and Josh had come on the trip. He was a filmmaker for surf. He made surf films. And I guess they hit it off on the trip, started talking, and ironically enough, I had met Josh before because he was doing these videos for schools called Natural High, where he would interview athletes and different influential people about why not to do drugs and stuff, and do these videos that they would play in school. And I had done one of these videos for Josh maybe the year before, so I had met him. And Mikey and Josh go on this trip, they hit it off, they start talking entrepreneurial kind of talk and ambitions, and they're like, we should start a brand. I think we would work together as a brand. And they're talking about should we do a clothing brand? Nah, there's a million clothing brands in our industry, like sunglasses? Nah, there's a bunch of those. Went down the list of all the typical ones. And the way they told me is they shared a hotel room, and they were turning out the lights, went to go to bed, the conversation ended, and then one of them popped up, turned the light on, and was like, what about beer? We love beer. Surfers, skaters, snowboarders, we love beer. And the other one gets up, yeah, we love beer. Beer is great, blah, blah, blah. They come back from that trip, and Mikey texts me hey, I want to meet up with you. Me and Josh want to pitch you something. All right, cool. So I go meet up with them at a Starbucks in Thousand Oaks. We want to start a beer brand. And I'm like, cool, let's do it. That just, yeah, sure. And we had no idea what this entails, but we're think about it. There's no beer brand started by skaters. We can, we all have contacts in skate, surf, snow. We can be the brand of action sports, And we're like, yeah, sounds great, cool. So we start going down the process and, investigating what it takes to start a beer brand, and we're going to contract brew where other people who make beer brew it for us, put our labels on the bottle, and we're like, oh yeah, we'll just do it like that, and we'll sell them. And then we found out the margins on that were zero to pretty much nothing, and you had to sell astronomical numbers just to make any type of profit. So we kind of lost the wind out of our sails, but we went down the path of seeing what it would cost to open your own brewery. Found, what all the equipment would cost, you hired a brewmaster, what kind of salaries do they get, and all the employees that you would need, and how to get distribution and this and that. So found out what those numbers were, and we set out to go raise some money. I'd never been a part of a capital raise before. I didn't even know what that was, you know? And so me and Mikey were the first initial investors. We invested our own money to get Josh so that he can quit his job, move to San Diego, and go full in with St. Archer. And from there, Josh just turned into a beer genius, and he studied the game and knew everything about it, and he went after it. And we ended up raising that money within a year, probably even less than that. It probably seems like a long time, actually, but I forget the timeline. But we raised all the money, and we ended up opening up our own brewery. And maybe 2.5, 3 years after it opened, Coors came knocking, Budweiser came knocking. We had a little bid. Coors felt like the better match, and we ended up letting it go. And
I was gonna say, what was sort of the auspice? You know, it's obviously you build it from scratch. It's successful. It's working. On the one hand, you know, it's incredible to exit from a business very quickly. On the other hand, you know, one has to be concerned that they're leaving stuff on the table. So what were the sort of considerations in your head?
Well, the way I understood it at the time when we were getting approached to get bought, because we weren't really even profitable then. We just had a good brand momentum going. But the way I understood it at the time is we can either consider selling now to one of these big brands, make really good return on our investment, or we can try and grow like we saw some other craft beer brands and be worth 100, 200, 300 million, whatever the case may be. But that would take us raising another 10, 15 million dollars. And I didn't know at the time, and it took me a while to understand this, but like when you raise that kind of money and you can't invest to keep up with that raise, your percentage in the company gets diluted and you lower your percentage of ownership. And I was like, well, I don't want to get diluted so low. I mean, obviously, having a smaller piece of a bigger pie could be good, but we didn't know how long it would take for us to grow big enough to get outside of California, to become nationally distributed, and how much money that would take. It could take forever, and we could get diluted down to basically nothing. And we just felt like that was too much of a, too risky to do when we have really nice return on our investment. All of our investors, who are friends and family mainly, and a couple other like guys who invested, but mainly family and friends. Like right now, if we take this deal, we can make sure that we do right by them and they get all their money back and then some, and for ourselves too. So we just felt like it was right. It was just like, yeah, sure, you could go for the bigger dream, but you could also really mess it up. You could blow it, and we had no experience in this before. And so we were like, let's do this. Let's make our money, take it off the table, and we can do something else, you know, start something else.
Now, when you sell the company, though, you know, generally speaking, those deals are structured where you have sort of either golden handcuffs or golden parachute, depending on how you want to frame it.
Sure.
What was the sort of nature of the deal, and like how much longer did you and the other partners have to stick around?
Sure. So they bought a certain portion of the company up front, which is the majority of it, and we kept a certain portion of it. And I think it was like a 3-year time frame where they wanted, after 3 years, if it performed to X level, then they would buy out the rest of it at that new valuation. And so we decided to agree to that. That way you would keep all the names attached, like myself, Mikey Taylor, all the other skaters, snowboarders, surfers, well-known athletes who are attached to the brand, keep the brand, pushing the brand and make it feel authentic. And then afterwards, you know, hopefully we'd get that second payout. The relationship, I guess, with Coors and us just didn't mesh as good as we had hoped. So we actually ended up negotiating with Coors, and they ended up buying us out, I think, in that second year, and just paying us out that second year, which was still lovely. I wasn't mad at all. And then we kind of just shook hands and walked away, and that was it. Yeah.
It's a pretty good, I mean, $35 million exit at after 2.5, 3 years of work is a beautiful thing.
It was a great situation, and you know, again, I stumbled ass backwards into just that meeting at Starbucks, going, yeah, okay, and just stumbled ass backwards. Thank you, God. I don't know, man. I mean, obviously a lot of hard work went into it, and Josh was huge in spearheading that whole thing. But here I was, still on the sideline, just okay, what, you know, and just stumbled into it.
To be fair, it does sound like you have a pretty firm grip on how the business worked and
well, maybe now.
Okay.
I mean, now after the fact, having learned and gone through it, and now having a little more experience with primitive and stuff, now I get it. At that time, I had no idea, I had no understanding. I didn't understand why we would be getting diluted. I didn't understand how dilution worked. I didn't understand the percentages based on how much you had to put in, and I didn't understand any of it. I was just like, all right, cool. You know, I had lawyers and, you know, people who knew this stuff looking after it, and they would be like, okay, this is good, this is bad, and okay, I, you know, trust my experts, but that was the extent of it.
So after the St. Archer situation, I was listening to a podcast with you where, from a couple of years ago, you mentioned having an involvement with a tequila brand. But I understand that might not be exactly what it sounded like at the time. Can you tell me a little bit about that situation?
This is a hell of a story. This is where doing the okay backfires on you. I've had a lot of success so far doing the okay, sure, I'm down, but this is where it backfires. I wouldn't even say it backfired; it's just wasted time. So during the pandemic, I was still not fully recovered from my knees, so I wasn't skating a lot, but I was in between management. I didn't have a manager at the time. And I got hit up in the DMs by a tequila brand, which was, seemed cool, but they just asked me, like, hey man, we'd like to pay you to post. And it was like, not very much money. I was like, nah, it's okay, I'm good, thank you though. And then they hit me back again, which now looking back, I was like, that's going from 0 to 100. They were gonna pay me like peanuts to post one post. But then they were like, hey, actually, you know, I actually work for the marketing agency for the brand, but you know, we've been talking to the guys. Would you like to come to the offices and meet with the owners and see if maybe there's a way, like, you know, to get you involved with the brand on an ambassador level? I was like, sure, you know, I got nothing to lose. I'll take a meeting. So I go to these offices and I meet these guys, super cool guys, try out the different tequilas. That was fun. And then afterward, the two gentlemen who were the marketing agency that the tequila company had hired to help bring people like myself on board to push the tequila, because it was like an award-winning tequila, but just didn't have a lot of brand awareness. After the meeting, when we were walking out to the parking lot, this one guy tells me, like, hey man, I'm actually, you know, an agent as well. Like, I represent athletes, you know, baseball players, football players. He starts naming a few big names. And he was like, you know, I don't know if you're still with your former agent. And he knew who my former agent was. At least he said her name. I don't know if you're still with so-and-so, but I was like, no, you know, right now I'm just kind of flying solo. Not sure where I'm going with it. He's like, well, if you ever need help, man, I feel like I can do some good work for you. I was like, hey man, if you bring anything to the table, let me know. So I ended up staying in contact with him, and you know, he's a smooth talking guy, whatnot. So I ended up just signing. He's like, well, I want to go out and get you some deals, but you know, like, I want to feel like we're in this together, so I want to sign a agency deal with you. Which, you know, okay, fine. Like, just basically a standard letter says I am your agent. I get X percentage of any deal I bring to the table. Okay, sure, cool. So, you know, first month goes by, he calls me, you know, I got, you know, this company on the line. They're looking to do a big investment. Would you want to do it for X amount of dollars? And I'm like, looking at the phone. I did one of these, like, what? Yeah, are you kidding me? Like, in the skateboard world, you know, we make good money, you know, sure, I make decent money. I would consider I make good money with Nike, but I don't make LeBron money. Obviously, I don't make, Serena or any of those kind of people money, but to me, it's good. I'm afforded the lifestyle that I'm grateful for. But he's telling me numbers like, big numbers. I'm like, are you bullshitting me? He's like, no, man, like you're in the big leagues, man. You're rolling with the big dogs. Like, I represent the big boys. Like, probably smooth talking. I'm like, hey, man, if you can get me that deal at that number, yes, let's do it. He's like, no problem. Next week he'll call me about some other brand. Like, yo, would you ever be considered doing something with this bank? Yeah, they want, you got this whole crypto market thing going on, blah, blah, blah. They want to, make sure they're getting in the game and getting the youth culture. And he had to pitch down smooth. And I'm like, hey, yeah, sure. And he's like, cool, I'm going to hit him at this number. What do you think? I'm like, again, yeah, are you kidding me? Like, of course. And I would tell him constantly, like, are you serious? And he would, like, sometimes get offended, like, what do you mean am I serious? I'm dead serious. I'm like, well, you got to understand, like, the world I come from, we don't hear these numbers. He's like, well, you're in the big leagues now, like, I'm actually not even psyched on this number, blah, blah, blah. And he would, like, play it down. And then all of a sudden I realized it's 4 or 5 months later, and I've had, multiple calls about this and that. And I'd be like, yo, what's up with that deal with this? He's like, yeah, it's in legal right now. We're going back and forth. We're redlining certain details. We'll get it all hashed out. All right. What about the other deal? Same thing, going back and forth through legal. We're going to get it. Don't worry, blah, 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 blah. And it's like fucking 7 months now. Nothing, not one deal has gone through, nothing. He's still talking big, and he's still talking about these other deals and this and that. And I'm starting to get suspicious, bro. I'm like, he tries to hire my boy Mike to come work and do their content in their offices. But we go to their offices. Got a full floor of offices, people in there, remodeling the whole inside. I go stay at his house. He's got a nice house, San Clemente, 2-story house. Fancy cars. I'm like, all right, like, he's obviously making a living somehow. So I'm just, still kind of being naive about it. Finally, I don't know, 8, 9 months in, I'm super suspicious. I'm like, yo, what's up with this? And he sends me one day, he's like, check your email for a DocuSign. Got a letter of intent from a certain company at X amount of dollars and this, and I'm like, it's legit, okay. So I signed the letter of intent, send it back in, cool. Another 6 weeks goes by. Hey, what's up with that contract that we signed a letter of intent? Yeah, they're being sticklers, we're trying to make sure we don't get you, stuck and blah, 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 this and that, and just looking out for your interests. I'm like, all right, man. And by this time, I'm like, dude, this guy has got to be bullshitting. He's got to be. And then right as I'm like completely about to just be like, yo, what the fuck? He calls me one day, hey, check your email. Check my email. I have 2 contracts in there. One from an insurance company, one from a big bank. Both talking mega millions for multiple years. And I'm like, all right, I hope this is legit, you know what I mean? I'm like, at this point, I'm like not getting excited. So he's like, just send them back so we can get you paid, I'm like, all right, cool. So sure enough, I sent it to my personal lawyer. Yo, you mind checking these contracts out, see if they're legit, man? I don't know, I feel a little weird about how this has all been going down. Like, I've been getting smoke blown up my ass or whatever. And he's like, all right, I'll look into it. So my lawyer contacts the legal team of the insurance company. And the insurance company is like, let's do some research on this. They go, they do their research, they call them back like, hey, yeah, we have no such deal in the works. This doesn't look like one of our deals. The logo on the actual contract is like our logo from 10 years ago. The woman who signed for it, who was like the vice president or chairman, is not even in that position anymore. And this is absolutely a fake contract. And my lawyer tells me this, and I'm like, I knew, like, of course. I'm like, I knew it. My gut was telling me, but I was just being blinded, like, well, maybe. And it was a complete fake. So I called the dude, yo, the day before he had asked me, he was like, yo, the contract's coming through. And I was like, okay, cool, cool. He's like, how come you don't seem excited? I was like, you know, I don't get too excited till, you know, ink's on the paper. He was like, well, you better get excited. So anyways, so I called him back the next day. I was like, hey, remember when you told me yesterday, or when you asked me why I wasn't so excited? He was like, yeah. I was like, because the contract is fucking fake. It's the fake, it's not real. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, my lawyer just called me, said he spoke to this company, their legal team, their lawyers. They have no record of this contract. It's fake. The woman who signed it isn't even in that position anymore. The logo is wrong. It's fake. He's like, this is bullshit. How dare you accuse me of this and that? I'm like, I'm not accusing you. I actually waited to accuse you till I had facts. This is not an accusation. This is factual. This is a fake contract. Like, you're gonna see, I got the fucking paperwork to show it, blah, 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 blah. You're gonna see, this is bullshit. Like, you know, I really am disappointed in you. I never expected this out of you. We've been working together this long, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, bro, give it up. Like, I was like, what is your hustle? He's like, what hustle? I don't have a hustle. I don't get paid till you get paid. I was like, exactly. What the fuck is your hustle? You've never made $1 off me. You spent all this time doing this shit. What the fuck is that? I don't get it. And he's like, bro, this ain't bullshit. This is the real deal. Now you're messing with my reputation. Blah, 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 blah. Long story short, it was fake. Dude fucking disappeared from our little industry or whatever. And I don't know what the hell he's doing now, but I know I'm doing good now. I got some deals since then, so.
That is insane. Mm-hmm. And you, to this day, you still don't really know what his grift was or how he was trying to finesse?
No idea what he was doing, how he was paying for those offices, that house, whatever. I had no clue. Don't want to know, actually. I prefer not to know. Don't care. All I know is if he'd have put the same effort into actually trying to get actual deals, he probably would have got some deals, and we could have legitimately done proper business together. But I guess this is not how his brain is wired. And whatever. I wish him all the best, man. I'm here. So
it's an incredible story. So I know you have another entrepreneurial endeavor that's a little closer to your heart.
Yeah.
You've recently gotten into lemon ranching.
Yeah.
Tell me, how does one end up the proprietor of a lemon ranch?
I stumbled ass backwards once again into ranching. My father, when he first started making some money, he bought my grandparents a ranch up north, Northern California, 40 acres. At the time, it was oranges and lemons, and there was 3 houses on the property. All his brothers and sisters moved in, his parents moved in, everybody's there. So I grew up going there. You know, he bought this place before I was born in the 80s. And so I grew up going there, playing with my cousins, having the best memories, best time up there. And one day my dad calls me maybe 5-6 years ago, and he says, you know, he was considering selling the ranch. You know, he can make some good money off of it. He's held the property for a long time. He might be considering selling. I was like, no, Dad, you can't, please. Well, he's like, do you want to buy it? I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of investment, Dad. I wouldn't know what the first thing to do. But then I remembered my ex-girlfriend, her best friend's father, who I had ended up becoming good friends with, and we would go have dinner at their house sometime, and I would just hit it off with this dude. They call him Psycho Eddie. So I would hit it off with Psycho Eddie. We'd have some beers. He'd be cooking up barbecues, and he's just a cool character. But they lived out in Oxnard, and he had lemons and avocados and trees, all that, horses, everything. So he seemed to be knowledgeable in this area. So when my dad asked me about it, I was like, I don't know, maybe, just give me some time, you know. And then I started thinking, like, should I do this, should I not? And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, what about Eddie? He might know something about this. Let me call Psycho Eddie up. So
As one does.
Yeah. So I called Psycho Eddie. And, hey, Eddie, you know, told him all about the property. I don't know anything about it. I was considering maybe buying the land, or, you know, just to keep it in my family because it's so sentimental to me. I just don't know if I want to get into that type of headache, you know. I don't know how to manage this thing. So he's like, you know what, I'll go with you. Let's go check out the property and I'll tell you what I think. So we drive up there, check the land out, look at it. He sees everything. And he tells me, he's like, you know what? I think this land has some serious potential. I think you can get, because it was never a working ranch. My dad just bought it for my grandparents, just for my grandpa to just have and take care of the place, because he was always a migrant farm worker working for someone else. So now he wanted to get my dad his own ranch, you know, or my grandpa his own ranch, and just have it for himself. But they never made it a working ranch, never sold fruit. They just had 40 acres and they just did it, I don't know, for the love, I guess. But so flash forward to Eddie, he's telling me, like, you know, the market's pretty profitable in fruit, you know, and whatever. So I get to talking with Eddie, I'm like, all right, you know, let's go for it. So I invest into it, buy brand new 40 acres of brand new lemon trees from they're baby trees, invest in it, get a whole new irrigation system. I mean, I'm putting some money into it, like, I hope this works, you know. And we end up doing a deal with this packing house out there that they come, they bring their people, they pick all the stuff for you, and then they pay you, you know, per cart, per bin, a price per bin, you know. So it's kind of what we've been doing. Eddie actually relocated from Oxnard, bought a house up next to the property, and he manages it, he runs it, you know, makes sure it's fertilized well, and everything, all the permits are up to date, and all the, you know, all the trees are taken care of, and that we get the best possible fruit out of these trees. So it's pretty good. And what I like about it is, like, it has nothing to do with trends or cool or not cool. It's lemons. Lemons ain't going out of style. They're not going out of fashion. They're lemons. People, as far as I can tell, people are going to always use lemons. So it's pretty much a market that's always going to, you know, every market has its ups and downs, but somebody's going to always want some lemons. So far it's been challenging, but now that the trees are starting to get almost to full maturity and they'll be at their full production level, it should be decent, you know. So I'm not going to get rich off it, but it should be decent for, you know, help bring my pops in some extra revenue, maybe take a little for myself and Eddie. So should be nice.
That's cool. So, you know, you're now in your mid-30s. For a normal person, you would be mid-career or like early mid-career. For a professional athlete, you're sort of, you know, on the tail end.
On borrowed time.
Yeah. How are you thinking about the next phase of your life?
I'll be honest, man, it scares me, the next phase of my life. I'm terrified of it because, I mean, this is all I've known since 12 years old. I've been very fortunate. I've never had a job, never had a job application or worked anywhere. Skateboarding is the only thing I've ever earned money off of, you know? So for me to, like, think of, like, there's a time when that's not gonna be the case, it's scary, man. It makes me sad. But that being said, I feel like I've luckily, thank God, had the mindset early on of trying to set myself up for that inevitable time. So I think as far as being able to maintain my lifestyle after skateboarding, I feel comfortable that that's gonna be fine. It's more so like, what am I gonna do with myself? Where am I still have so much passion in me. Like, where am I gonna put that passion? Where am I gonna put that fire? I do enjoy acting. I've done acting classes. I was doing acting classes for about 4 years up until the pandemic hit. I haven't gone back since pandemic because that's when my knee finally got healthy and I fell right full blown into skating. Like, I'm just like, skating needs all my attention right now. But I do have dreams of becoming an actor, and I feel like after I've fully got everything out of my system of skateboarding, whenever that is, that might be a place that I'll be able to put my full effort towards and be able to kind of, you know, satisfy that thing in me that has to always keep going and progressing. So that's what I'm looking at. I've been fortunate enough to do some acting roles. I had a little role in Serena, the series that was on Netflix a couple years ago. Had a little role in this show called The Garcias that came out last year on HBO Max. So I've done little things here and there. That would be nice. I'd love to do that. But right now I'm still like trying to be in denial that you ever have to stop skating at a high level, so.
You'd mentioned, we were talking, in the green room here, you're obviously a fairly accomplished entrepreneur, but you don't consider yourself an entrepreneur.
No, I'm not an entrepreneur. I consider myself an investor. I want to be an investor. The reason why I say that is because I'm lazy, 100% lazy. Trying to get me to answer an email it's impossible. I just don't do it. I just won't do it. I know it sounds silly because there's probably I know people who crush 100, 200 emails a day. I barely answer my text messages, and I'm just not built like that, getting out there and negotiate. I'm, like making tough decisions, having to fire people, hire people. That shit kills me, bro. I don't like doing that, and I'm not built for that. I want to invest my money and make my money work for me. I've been working long enough for the money. I want to let my money do the work for me. So, I try to invest wisely in either like real estate or, I do some stock stuff with my financial planner. I got the lemons and primitive and stuff like that. So I just try to invest in tried and true stuff that historically, and you look at all the wealthiest people, what they have invested in, try to make sure I have a nice element of that, but also, like I would like to invest in other entrepreneurs who thrive in the environment of negotiating the deals and problem solving and emails and meetings and all that stuff, and living that life. If they love it and that's where their passion is, and that's what they want to do, I would definitely invest in somebody if I felt like they had the right brand, the right thing. I would, continue to invest in entrepreneurs, but like I said, man, you gotta know what you're good at and what you're not good at. That's just not. I wouldn't even be happy doing that. Even if I could do it and I was good at it, I don't think I would be happy living like that. So, the whole goal of it is to be happy. That's the ultimate end goal.
You mentioned, how you've worked to set yourself up so that you can live in the lifestyle that you're accustomed to after your pro career ends. What does that look like from, when you're sitting with your financial advisor and deciding, all right, this is how we're going to cut the pie up, this much for savings, this much for the market. Like, what did that look like?
It's hard to say. I don't have a exact formula, and it's probably maybe not even the smartest way of doing it, but I guess I'm all feel, all instinct. Now, I've learned now after my story about that doesn't always work, so I've learned that, you got to be smart and do some strategizing, but really, I'm basically going to put a certain portion in the market with my financial planner and, trust his expertise. I'm on the phone once a month with him, guaranteed like clockwork. We talk about everything that's going on in the economy. Do we shift things here? Do we go more conservative, more risky? Everything from, my daughter's college fund to retirement funds to all those type of things to maybe like, hey, I heard this stock. What do you think about this stock? And doing all that and go there, but I definitely make sure a nice chunk is always real estate too. My friend, my boy Mikey Taylor, I was telling you earlier, former pro skater we started St. Archer with. He's really big into multifamily, like apartment buildings and storage unit stuff. So I invest heavily with him because I know him very well. I know his passion and love for what he's doing. So I go over there, so I just try to make sure if one thing shits the bed, hopefully the other thing is there and solid. So I think those two more tried and true areas allow me to take riskier ones, such as the lemons or primitive or maybe something else,
We're obviously in a somewhat tumultuous macroeconomic moment right now. How much do you pay attention to that, and how much are you adjusting the way your life is set up?
Yeah, well, I don't pay that much attention, truthfully. I'm not like watching, MSNBC or whatever, looking at the ticker tape or all that ever. I do, here and there take a glance at, my account that's with the stock market to see where the market's up or down. That's pretty much all I check on. But as long as I stay in close contact with my planner, and I go off of, because that's all he does. He loves that. And I talk with him and, ask him like, hey, what should we watch out for? Do we need to pull back? What do we do? He's already ahead of it. He's like, I was thinking we shift over here because blah, 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 this and that, historically this and that and that and that. And, I have to trust my experts. Why hire an expert if you're not going to use their expertise, So I listen to what he suggests. And as far as real estate, I mean, it's going to always go up and down. Same with stock market, but it's going to always go up and down. But at the end of the day, as far as I can tell, for the foreseeable future, people need a place to live, You have to live somewhere. So I just trust that it's going to go up and down, but I think in the long run, it's going to ultimately go up. It's going to go up, maybe down, but still up, maybe down. But the trajectory is still going upwards. That's my thought process, and then the rest I just, please God, please God, please God, please God, and that's it. Actually, I start off with please God, please God, please God, and then kind of work with my experts, and then from there just let go and just let God.
You had a child at a fairly young age. You were 23, 24 years old. How did that change how you thought about your professional life?
Luckily, it really didn't change too much how I thought about my professional life, because at that time especially, I was like fire hot in my prime. Earning potential was great. And I was already, investing, financial planning, and, starting to grow my money and have my money work for itself at that point. So I felt grateful that I didn't really have to adjust. I didn't have to I gotta buckle down and get more serious, because, as far as skating was concerned, at that point, I was as serious as you can get. There was nothing in my way. Laser focus. I'm on a mission. I have a personal mission to be. So I already was confident, unless I had a major injury or something that stopped me completely, I still had so much runway, so much time left, and I was hungry as ever. So I wasn't too worried on a financial level. It was more so on a human level. I knew that I could give a child love and care for a child, but I also knew that I was still a child. And even still now I'm learning, man, I have no idea what I'm doing. All I know is she knows I love her, and I try to love her, but you gotta think, I was 12 years old and I'm still in the same career from when I'm 12 years old. So there's certain things about me that are still basically stuck as a 12-year-old that I didn't learn, that somebody else may have learned, not living the way I was living, somebody who had to grow up and mature and go to college, and you have these certain experiences and you learn certain dynamics, or maybe somebody who had really close relationship with their parents, or especially their father. I knew my father my whole life, but I didn't know him. I wasn't raised by him. I would see him here and there, but I didn't, he didn't teach me how to shave and throw the ball, that type of stuff, you know what I mean? So I never had that direct dynamic. So I'm kind of just feeling things out and just trying to go along and learn as I go. That for me is what having a kid was. Luckily, it wasn't the financial responsibility, but it was just man, can you raise a good person? Can you raise a person in society that's gonna, be a good person in society? Or can you give somebody the tools to grow up to be a happy person? I get so nervous about what these kids are exposed to these days and what's going out there and the shit they have access to, especially internet-wise, and they're way more privy to a lot of stuff that we just weren't before social media. So that's stuff that troubles me and that I try to figure out.
You mentioned your father, and he was sort of in his peak or his prime at that moment during your childhood, and obviously that affected the amount of time that you could spend with him and the relationship that you guys ultimately would have. Does that weigh, or did that weigh in how you approached parenting?
Yeah, for sure. And don't get me wrong, I don't fault my dad at all. I have no animosity or anger towards my dad, especially now, having had the type of career I have and having so many similarities to our careers as far as time consuming and travel wise and the attention span that it takes to be great at your craft. I have no anger, but I definitely make sure that my daughter knows me. I'm present in her life. When she was doing gymnastics, I never missed any of her gymnastics meets, or I spend time with her. I have her 50% of the time. I have equal custody, so I take her to school, I drop her off, pick her up, stuff like just those type of things that I didn't have because my dad and my mom weren't together. I don't ever even remember them being together, but I lived with my mom. I grew up with my mom, and so that's just what it was. And but yeah, I just don't want my daughter to ever feel like awkward to talk to me, or like she doesn't know me. Like the fact that I was telling you earlier that like she's almost too cool for me is kind of, now that I'm thinking about it, kind of like soothing, because like she knows me enough to like not like just be completely relaxed and normal. Like, yeah, dad, whatever, dad, cool, dad. When I would see my dad, I would be still kind of like nervous. Like, he was always great to me and nice to me and loved me, no doubt. But I still like, because I didn't see him often, it was just like I would every time like, oh, I want to be with my dad. Okay, what are we gonna do? Like, I don't know. Like, I never felt like just like, what up, dad? How you doing? Like, cool, dad. Like, like I don't know. It was just always like more of a like, okay, I'm only going to have this amount of time with them. I wonder what we're going to do. Are we going to go to Disneyland, or we're going to do this or that, whatever, because whenever I seen him, it was like, okay, we have to do something. He would take me to Disneyland or take me to the ranch to visit my cousin. It was always to take me to do, it was never just normal, like, kick it around the house type days, because we didn't see each other regularly enough for those moments, And maybe he was also trying to make up for not seeing me. So, I'm going to take you to do this, And I take having to do stuff, but, we're around each other plenty of time where it's just like, yeah, like, we're just at the house. We're just watching TV, or she'll be watching the Kardashians. She's all into the Kardashians right now. Like, I never really watched it, but I'll sit there and watch it with her or whatever, And, like, she just discovered Jersey Shore. And she was, like, telling me all about it. I'm like, yeah, I know. I watched this show in real time when it came out, like those just little things. Like, to me, that's really cool. And like, just playing games at the house with her, it's good. It's great. So that's actually comforting to me.
So, you've now been through, let's say, 85% of your career and are, an acclaimed OG of the highest caliber. If you were to pull aside, a 16-year-old who has the talent and the determination and the aspiration to do what you did, what are the most important things that you would want to sort of impart on them?
Just hold on to that passion. Hold on to that talent. Hold on to those dreams. Hold on to them. Because if you get too into it and it becomes too normalized, before you realize they faded away. And you have to work really hard to go back and find them. Find the dreams, find the passion. You have to work really hard to go back and get it. And sometimes it doesn't come back. Some people never find their way back to that. Don't lose that. Keep that childlike enthusiasm. Keep it strong. Keep that fire burning, and that's all I can say, keep your body healthy, your mind healthy, of course. But if you have that passion strong, then keeping yourself healthy or keeping yourself out of trouble or keeping yourself focused doesn't have to be stressed, because that's a natural byproduct of being passionate. Nothing else matters anyway, that's actually not interesting to go party or to go chase girls or to do whatever. Being locked in is the only thing that's interesting. So you don't have to tell someone that locked into, like, stay away from this, don't do that. because they're not gonna do it. They're gonna be locked in. Just don't lose that. Don't lose the lock in. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I know you're obviously a huge Jay-Z fan, but you know, he is a generation above you. There's another rapper who is more of your contemporary and peer, who you're very closely associated with, or at least I associate you with, Lil Wayne. What is the nature of your relationship, and how did you create that?
Well, I don't have like a super close relationship with him, but it was just through skateboarding. And once he started skateboarding, man, he really fell in love with it. And I forget how it first happened, but somebody got in contact with me. It was right after he got out of jail, somewhere close to that. And I had a skate park, not quite this cool, but it was actually in this same location, just the building behind us. And I had a skate park, and somebody hit me up and said, "Hey, Lil Wayne's in town, and he wanted to know if he can come skate your skate park." Yeah, duh. So I remember he had this guy who was helping teach him skate, Adam Z, rest in peace. Adam Z was the guy who was like helping Wayne learn how to skate. And so they came. Man, it was the coolest thing ever, bro. I was at the skate park, like blacked out Escalade pulls up, big ass security guards come out. They come in, they look around the place. I'm just like all intimidated, like, oh no. And then a few minutes later, second blacked out Escalade comes out, and fucking the door opens, and before you can even see him, smoke comes out of the Escalade. You get how he's got shades on. It's like 10 at night, dude, pitch black, shades on. Smoking a blunt, just classic Wayne, you know, like you're like, wow. Comes in, said, what up, how you doing? You know, super cool, super nice. And he just fucking skates all night long, And cause he's like, I don't know if he's nocturnal or what, but he didn't come, must have been 1, 2 in the morning when he showed up, and he skated. And then from there, I was just like, yo, just anytime you want, come skate, let me know. I gave him a key to the old park, so if I'm here or not here, come through, skate, whatever, the park is yours, you know? And so, but they would always hit me up when he was coming, and I would always try and show up and make the session, you know, and hang out, and just like, wow, watching him skate and just seeing him, like, he's interested in what we're doing. That's so crazy, man. Like, how much times I've sat listening, having headphones in my ears while I'm skating flat ground, listening to his songs, you know? And the trippiest part is like when he talks to you, and it's like, that's the voice you always hear in the head. That's right here. That's the famous voice, you know? It's always a trip, man. And to this day, you know, he still comes skates the park all the time. Actually, my boy Spanish is actually a lot closer with Wayne than I am. I just come by, say what up. Like, dude, when I get around my heroes, bro, people I look up to, I can't function, man. That's why I like sometimes don't even want to meet my heroes, because I just hey. So I just like, you know, I just come, I sit around, I'm just like cool, and I just watch and observe, man.